Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Mannino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Mannino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing personal and professionals that share their experience with you, the audience, how they got to where they're at today. And zooming from the beautiful island, Naples, Florida, we got JD Ribali, former Italian.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love business. I've had probably 20 to 30 businesses my entire life. I started off selling cucumbers out of my mom's garden because the ice cream truck used to come into town, and I'd ask her for money and she'd always tell me no. So I found a way and I sold the cucumbers. And so one night she's getting dinner ready and she goes, "Where's all my cucumbers?" I said, "They're all sold." And I showed her the money and she goes, "Well, I guess you're getting ice cream." So I got the bug early at 7 years old and have businesses that I've always been the love of my life. And so now I run a nonprofit called Biz Kids. I help young people find their passion, find a way to take their business idea and actually make money on it. Because we find that once a kid makes money on something they've created, they're in. They want to learn more and they want to find out about it. And so I didn't have that mentorship as a kid. And so I wanted to bring that on to other kids and show them how to do that. And so that's what we focus on.
That's awesome, man. It's great. Bringing up the next generation. That's a lot of fun. I teach martial arts and I love teaching, I love teaching younger people because they listen more. And, once, like you said, once you get them excited on something, for my kids, whenever they win a tournament or win something, that's when their life changes. They're like, man.
Yeah. And parents always tell us, I've told them that for years, told them to do this and told them to do that. But if they hear it from somebody else and they see that somebody else is doing it, they have a tendency to follow instructions better from somebody else. So I'm there for
Mentors.
Parents to kind of help out and inspire the next generation.
That's awesome. Keep up the good work. There's not a lot of people in your space that you're doing. What sets you apart from everybody else? What do you do that's really good that nobody else can do?
So there's a lot of entrepreneurship programs out there. There's a lot of nonprofits that kind of focus on, hey, can we teach kids or bring their attention to entrepreneurship? But most of the nonprofits all focus on trying to get kids to pick a college degree that they want to go after or try to find a college that's going to work for them. And we're different because I don't believe, I went to college and I don't think it's for everybody. I think that there's opportunities everywhere. And so we want to just really help kids find their passion and get out there. And the way we do that is we started off what we call the Biz Kids Expo. And the expo, the kids get to actually sell their products, make money for themselves that day. But they also got a Shark Tank aspect to it where they get to pitch their idea to our judges. And then we give away $5,000 of prize money at the end of the day. So once the kids hear about this, where, hey, I can make some money selling my product and win prize money on top of it, they're jazzed. They're ready to go. They're out there trying to come up with their ideas, putting them together. And so it's just different that way because we're always have that incentive of money. And that's what us entrepreneurs are all motivated by, right? We want to all make that money. We want to have that impact where we see that the results of our hard work are going right back into our pocket.
Yeah, once you get the bug, man, it's hard to get rid of.
It is. And I tell all my young entrepreneurs, once you get it, you're never going to stop. Your first idea is not going to be your last. And I said, you're going to have hundreds of ideas of how to change, adapt. You might even go into a whole different industry once you start learning about it.
Agreed. I started in carpentry back in the 80s, showing my age. And then I started my own company in carpentry and then building and flipping. And now, just like you said, and now we're into multifamily now, and it's a progression. You never know with entrepreneurship, you never know where you're going. You don't know where you're going to end up.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that was kind of a big one for me is I was a dyslexic kid. I struggled in school, and my third grade teacher told my parents that I would never graduate from high school. And so when my mom pulled me out of school and she kind of took it on herself, I was homeschooled. I went to private schools. We had to figure out different ways. And what I learned about myself during that time is I might not be able to do it the same way as everybody else, but I always find a workaround. And so I was always looking for a workaround. And so I try to identify those kids that are, coming into our program and trying to do that. Are they dyslexic? Are they ADHD? And what can we do to get them involved and figure out that workaround that they can have those successes? So,
yeah. Do you know what the odds are of an ADHD kid being an entrepreneur?
I think I heard somebody say like 80% or something like that. It's high.
You have a 300% chance
of
being an entrepreneur if you have ADHD.
Yeah.
So it's a hyperactive disorder that, school was tough for me. I didn't finish college. I started college, but I actually enjoyed learning. I just didn't like to be sit there, talk to, because I had too much energy. And if you focus energy the right way, you'll be surprised where you can go. You'll be ultimately surprised. So I know exactly how you feel.
And I think that, when you do start finding those workarounds, that's where you really get the focus on. And I had to find that. And that's where I was in my journey as well.
The ADHD and dyslexia. Dyslexia helps you work workarounds.
Yeah.
It really does. It challenges you to move around. The ADHD, you want to get stuff done. So you find the workarounds to get done faster. Does that make sense? Because everybody has like a path or a way to go, and ADHD kids find the cheat codes to.
Exactly.
Right.
I never followed the crowd. I wasn't doing the same things as the crowd did. I always looked opposite directions, and there's a lot more opportunities when you're looking opposite directions. Everybody chases the same things all the time. And so I'm always like, okay, if the crowd's going that way, then I'm going this way.
Well, that's Warren Buffett's, favorite line is, get greedy when people are scared and scared when people are greedy, when everybody else is going a direction, let's go the other direction. I agree with that 1,000%. Me and you are the same person, different bodies. If someone that's listening to the podcast wants to get better at what you're doing, what are your suggestions? What tips and tricks would you give them?
First of all, we just tell kids to get out there and try. You have to try. And that's kind of the cliche answer from all entrepreneurs is just get out and do it. But really, you do. Just create something. We tell the kids, don't think of it as a full-time job. And the hardest sell is not to the kids, it's to the parents, right? Because the parents don't want the kids to fail, and they don't want to actually have another job for themselves to try to say, hey, start a business, and then they're doing all the work. So we look at it as, hey, you're starting a side hustle. Get out there. It's something you're going to probably do on a weekend, on an event, a special event, and you just get a try, and they have that experience of those wins. But ultimately, what we're teaching is celebrate the failures. And there's going to be failures along the way. And if we can teach kids right up at the beginning that entrepreneurship is all about making failures and adjusting and adapting to those to see what's going to work and what's not going to work, so they don't get discouraged, they don't drop out, and they don't start beating themselves down with negative self-talk. If you're prepared for understanding that there's failures, you're going to be a lot more resilient as you're going through the process, because now you're like, okay, I had a failure. Oh, well, I celebrate it. Let's go on. We're one step closer to a yes, or one step closer to another customer. So
agreed 100%. I compete in brick breaking in the US Open, and I've got some wins under my belt. And the one thing I learned about when you get to that level is that you don't learn anything when you get to first place. There's nothing you learn. If you get second, third, fourth, you learn how to get better, but you don't learn anything in first place.
Yep.
So like you said, fail big. I love that. Absolutely love that. In your businesses, what's your biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your career?
Failure. Yeah, like I said, I've had probably 20 to 30 companies, most of which have failed. I've only had one or two that actually were good. They actually made money on it. So I think that's been probably my biggest struggle. And being told as a kid that you're a dyslexic, and I always termed it as a dumb dyslexic, and my mother hated that. My wife hates that when I call myself a dumb dyslexic. But you get down on yourself. You start having that negative self-talk, and anytime you fail at something. And so the failure after failure. And I love seeing, on social media, we all see everybody's successes as entrepreneurs. They were an overnight success. They had this business idea. Now they got the big house, they got the big cars, they got the cash everywhere, but they never talk about the failures. And so what we really try to focus on is let the kids know that it's not just one overnight and you're going to be a success. It's going to be a multiple failures to get you there. And I think we learn the biggest lessons from that. But yeah, that's probably been the hardest thing for me, is dealing with my self-talk of when I do fail, just knocking myself down.
Your biggest opponent's yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I've learned it's a learning process, not to beat yourself up. It's really it's not easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody. I know it's not for me.
And once you get into starting the negative self-talk, it just escalates. It just keeps on going. It gets worse and worse and worse. So you just have to cut it off and then get back to focus on it. And I know a lot of times when we're dealing with the younger people, their self-talk is just the same. And they might not have parents that are giving them the positive self-talk.
Yeah.
They could have other influences that are being negative to them as well. And their friend group. What I notice a lot when we go to schools and I talk into schools, a lot of kids don't even want to share their ideas because they're worried about the peers, like telling them that's stupid or laughing at them. And so they don't even want to share it. And so a lot of times I'll be walking towards the door and they'll like sneak out of the room and say, "Hey, I have an idea. Can I tell it to you?" And so they want to share, but they don't want to share in front of their peers or people that might laugh.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. What is one of the here? I got a good question. I like to save to the last, but I'm going to put it to you a little bit differently on this one. So, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
53.
Nice. If you could go back to your 20s, anytime in your 20s, and know what you know now, what would you do different, or what would you do the same?
I would definitely do different, is I would just jump right into entrepreneurship and not have the fear. I think for many years, I didn't know that well. I didn't have the mentorship that I needed to like understand what I needed to do. And so I took the job. I took the easy route to have that security, stability, to actually have a job. So I would have dove in a lot sooner and said, "Hey, just deal with the pain now," because of when I'm younger and I had less resources, it would have been a lot easier to jump in and then go full board. So I wish I would have done that. And then I'm sorry, what was the?
So the two questions are: what would you do differently, and what would you do the same?
So the same, I would, and also I wouldn't have wasted my money on college. I'm sorry to say it. I did go and get my
I'm
master's.
on your page.
I went and got my MBA, and the only reason I did it is because everybody told me I couldn't. And so I wanted just to kind of prove them wrong.
Great motivator, isn't it?
But it cost me a lot of money just to say, "Hey, I was right. Like, I can do it." I would have like really focused on just getting into entrepreneurship. But what I would have changed, I think I would have taken more risks when I was younger too. I think again, I was fearful, and there was so much fear that I took that easy job and I didn't take the risks, and I was fearful. So I wish I would have changed that and not have that fear to just go out and try and go out and do.
Yeah, I learned that later on in life too. I had this one event, and it really did help me. And it was to learn discernment. I have a big belief in God, and then whenever I hear negative talk, I envision it from the enemy. And when I hear positive talk, I envision it from God. And if you put it to yourself, when I put it to myself that way, I didn't listen to the negative anymore because I knew where it came from. And I started listening to the positive. Whenever negative came in, I knew where it came from. You can't do this. You're not good enough. And I'm, oh yeah, right. I know where it's coming from. And then I just, it's easier for me to discard it. Does that make sense?
You have the little angel on one shoulder and the little demon
And
on the
the
other.
devil on the other shoulder. Yeah,
other,
exactly. And one's whispering in one ear, one's whispering in the other. And it's, and you can always tell by what it said, you can't do this. You're not good enough. That's the devil talking.
Oh, wow.
And, the devil also says, that girl's beautiful, and I'm like, well, I'm married. So, let's go down that route and stay on the marriage part because that works out great for me.
Yeah. One of the other things that I had a job and I got a job at a telemarketing outfit. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned about how to overcome failure and how to overcome rejection.
There you go.
It was an awful job. You're on the phone 8 hours a day, everybody telling you no. And some days when people would come in, new people, they wouldn't even make it to the first break and they're in tears and they're leaving and they're walking out the door. And I stuck with it. And for a safety job, like, hey, having this is the job that's going to have some income. It beat me down for an entire month before I actually realized it. But once I came out on the other side of that, I realized
a month. Wow.
Oh yeah. It was horrible. Like every night you would just go home just feeling completely defeated. But I stuck it out because I needed the job and I needed the money. And once I started getting the yeses, then the money started coming in with it as well. So it paid off. And I think that's where I learned probably the most of how to deal with rejection. And so as a young man that didn't know how to deal with that in the beginning, if you're worried about rejection, go get a job in telemarketing and you'll
stick it out for a month.
Stick it out. Yeah.
That's actually really good advice because I teach martial arts and we do things that are hard. A jump, reverse, spin kick's hard. It's hard to do. And what I've learned is if you do something hard for long enough, it doesn't get harder. It gets easier because you get stronger.
Yeah.
And whatever that is.
Yeah.
Sounds like things are going pretty well for you right now in your businesses. Looking forward to the future, wondering what you do to, once you become successful, save a little bit of money, what do you do to create passive income? What's your passive income and your end goal to be hopefully retired one day?
I always looked at the business models that had like a monthly subscription or something like where you have that continued revenue where your customers are coming in, they're getting that service all the time, and you're able to bill them every month. And so those are kind of the ideas I always look for when I look at a business idea. I don't want to get into. I had a service company for 23 years. We started off as a lawn care company and we got into a whole home service cleaning and maintaining type
repairs,
of thing.
Maintenance. That's actually good. That's a good business though.
And it's a great business, but I had tons of employees, tons of problems. And so, what I look at for now that I'm an old man and I just want to get to have that retirement coming in is how can I have that passive income where it's just a regular, consistent, something small where people are comfortable paying it. It's like going to a coffee shop. Coffee shops are great. People are paying $8 to $10 a drink every day.
Right.
My daughter works at a coffee shop, and they're bringing in anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 a day, just in coffee sales that people come in every day and spend that money. So I'm looking for those type of little dollars that are just constantly multiplying.
I have a saying. Yeah, you said it best. I have a saying. My money is like little green soldiers that are going out to make more money. That seems to be the best way to describe it. I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. Wrapping up the interview, what are your exciting plans for the next 6 to 12 months?
So what we're looking for is we'd love to take my big, hairy, audacious goal with Biz Kids is I'd love to see it to go national, where we're having events all over the country and competitions where the kids come in from different states to like compete against each other and make it kind of a bigger thing. So we're looking at how do we scale that? And so that's been kind of our goal and our plan is, okay, if we're doing it here in Southwest Florida and we have probably 9 chapters here in Southwest Florida that are doing it consistently.
Got 9 chapters?
Yeah, and we do have one in Las Vegas and one in Oregon. With other organizations, they run our program there. So we're just looking at how can we do that. So, and I don't know the answer yet. So we're still trying to figure that out. But my big, hairy, audacious goal would be, yes, I'd love to see this in every state where kids can get involved. Kids can like learn from us, learn from our mentors. Obviously, you know, we have our podcast as well, the Biz Kids podcast, where the kids actually get to learn from us online and hear the stories of other young entrepreneurs and what they're doing. And so we just want to grow it and see how big we can get it.
Nice. Well, that's a great idea. I love it. I would recommend finding out. You ever seen those robot wars? They have, every school has a robot facility, a robot organization. I don't know if it's interconnected with the school, but if you see how they go out and compete and do all that kind of stuff, and if you could join, you know, I don't know if it's part of the school. I really don't. Join that part and get the mentorship from them, and you keep doing it, because that'd be a great idea. I love the competition between schools and states. That's a great idea.
Yeah, my son did Lego robotics when he was younger, and so they had the similar type of thing. It was a national program, and so you would do your city that you would compete in, and then you would go to the division stuff,
Division
and then the national.
Yeah.
And so we've looked at those models. It's just how do we scale it? How do we get the people to do it? How do we get the funding to do it? Being a nonprofit and trying to find grant money is very difficult, and trying to sell them the idea and the mission. And so this is a whole new realm for me, being in a nonprofit versus, you know, creating businesses or for profit where we're just selling products all the time. So we got to kind of look at that and see how that's going to work and what it's going to look like. But you never know. You never know where God's going to lead us.
Yeah, I have no idea. You know, if you really want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, listen, JD, thanks for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
BizKidsUSA.org. You can find out all about our programs, or you can find us on Biz Kids podcast on all the podcast streaming services, and you can kind of hear our stories and what we're doing. Again, we interview kids that have had successes. We interview entrepreneurs that have had successes, and we just want to highlight those. And a lot of times our entrepreneurs talk about the failures as well. And so we like to focus on, you know, it's not always roses. It's not always perfect. It doesn't always go the way we plan, but that's part of the process. And that's what we're trying to get across.
Well, I would consider myself a 38-year overnight success.
And there you go.
Well, listen, thanks for your time. If any of the listeners want to contact JD, please do. He's an amazing guy, and he's trying to do amazing things. Thanks for being on the podcast. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.